Hello bitches, welcome back to another one of my videos where I give you just some informational nuggets about the animation industry. And once again, I just want to say I am not an animation veteran. I am not someone who has been in the industry since like 1975, who has worked and seen it all. Clearly, I am just a 23-year-old female who just started her career a year ago, but that's the point of my videos. I want to make videos from the perspective of someone who's just going through all the shit. Like, I'm still pretty new to this industry. I've been in CalArts for 4 years and I've started working last August, and now it is August of 2019, so I've been working in the industry for 1 year. Like,
please, no autographs, no pictures, please, I know.
Anyway, so today I just want to make a video that just talks about what it's like to work in animation, because I feel like that's just a thing that nobody really knows about. And you know, I see videos about people talking about what it's like to work for Google, what it's like to work as a software engineer, and blah blah blah, and I want to make one about animation and what it's like for me at this time in 2019 to work in animation. I feel like animation is a very specific field that not everybody really knows about yet, and people are still becoming more okay with letting their children pursue art as a career. So that's why if you're a parent watching this video, I'm about to let y'all in on some juicy deets about what it would be like to work in animation. So for many people, when they first start applying to schools or considering their careers, they don't know what to pursue because there's so many options out there. You don't know if art is stable enough. But the thing about animation is that you really have to do your research on it, because there's not a lot of information about it out there, like accounting or business related stuff or typical jobs that most people would take. Animation is very niche, and most of it just takes place in Southern California / Los Angeles / Burbank, and you have some in Canada, some in Asia, some in Europe, scattered about, but for the most part, it's mostly in LA. Most people, when they first start looking for jobs in an art field, don't know if animation is for them. And in my opinion, I think that if you want to get into animation, you really have to have a mindset of storytelling as well with art, because some people just think like, oh, I just want to paint pictures. I want to like just make pretty drawings. And like, yes, in animation you do have pretty drawings, but with everything in animation you kind of have to remember that there's a story behind everything. There's a reason why the character looks this way. There's a reason why this background looks this way or has this style. There's a reason why the storyboards are boarded out this way, and there's a reason why the things are animated in the ways that they are. If you don't know if you want to get into animation, it's first committing to the idea that you're going to have to do things that are very story driven, no matter what it is. Like, yes, you will be doing pretty drawings if you want to get into viz dev or character design, but for the most part, it's not going to be stuff that you just want to do for fun, unless if the creator hired you for that specific purpose. But that's the other thing, is that everyone kind of hires you based on what they see valuable from you and how that can apply to the show or the film or whatever. Like, it's very rare that people just kind of hire you and just be like, yeah, just do whatever you want. Like, just go crazy and draw whatever the fuck you want. Like, for the most part, it will be under the concept of the show, the scene, the sequence, or whatever the character is doing. So once you got that out of your system, if you've decided like, yes, I want to do very story-driven things that could potentially be in a film, a TV show, a book, a comic book, then yeah, maybe you might want to start thinking about animation as a career, because it is one of the art fields, in my opinion, that can actually pay you decently and live a regular, decent life, or even bougier life if you want to go further. So yeah, it's just kind of deciding if you want to take that step and then getting through the whole persuading your parents kind of thing, because you do have to do your research, show your parents the research, or just show yourself the research, and it's just a matter of figuring out the stepping stones that it will take to get there. What it's like working in animation, for the most part, is that you get paid regularly, like a regular person working at any other job. The only difference between animation and a lot of other jobs is that it's unstable but stable. That is that is a pretty big contradiction, I know, but the thing about animation is that you're gonna be jumping around from project to project a lot, and that's where the whole instability thing comes in. But in my opinion, it's not that unstable because it's not like once you leave a project or once a project ends, it's not like people just leave you and just desert you in the middle of nowhere and you're like there to just fend for yourselves and find your own thing. The hardest part is just getting your foot into the door, which is why even if you get an internship that is not your preferred internship, it's always better to just form those connections and have people remember you and know you that can help you in the future. Everything else after that should be pretty easy because you've established connections, and once your project ends, people are more than happy to help you with your next gig or whatever, and that part is definitely not as hard as the first time you look for jobs, and I would know that from my personal experience. But also, again, I am not everybody else, so you know, some people might have had a more difficult time looking for their second job than their first. As your job is about to end, people are aware of your end date, so they will help prepare you to figure out your next gig. I also just want to say that I somewhat enjoy the instability. It's just because it's always going to force you to grow, and it's always going to force you to be a better version of yourself in the next. Because I sometimes feel like if I were just at a regular 9-to-5 job that was just secured for the rest of my life, I would be a little bit less motivated to grow or like find different areas to push myself in, and it just seems very it gets very mundane and it gets very routine, and you don't really get like anything spiced up. And I know there are jobs that are 9-to-5s that you might have for 30 years that could like be the greatest roller coaster adventure of your life, but at the same time, I'm just a person who's just like, yeah, I actually like changing it up. I like jumping from project to project. I like meeting new people, and I like just being in that nomadic lifestyle because it's more adventurous, fun, and it pushes me as a person. And if anything, you get to use your hiatuses as vacations or time to spend on your personal art, or just do the things you never usually get to do without the guilt of not going to work. But yeah, normally it's fine if you know that you have a gig lined up, but I also feel like you shouldn't let that thought fear you from getting into animation. Like, just because you will have to jump from project to project, that shouldn't be why you don't want to get into animation. I feel like if this is something you're just definitely passionate about, a hiatus is not going to turn you off from pushing yourself through those moments of downtime without having a job. So once you get a job in animation, I would say for the most part, it's pretty chill, and it's even chiller than when you're at school. Because you have set hours, whether it's from like 9-to-5, 9-to-6, 10-to-7, you only have to work within those specific time spans, whereas if you were at school, you probably would have been working throughout the whole night and pulling all-nighters and just doing things for your projects, and you're not even getting paid for that. Once it hits like 6, 7, whatever time you end at, you're just out. And assuming that you do your work while you're at work, for the most part, people will extend your deadline if you let them know that you need more time. Obviously, if people know that you're a slacker and you were wasting your whole time at work, obviously that's on you. So previously, I've uploaded a day in the life video about what I do, and for the most part, I've had a lot of flexibility working in animation because honestly, once work is over or before work starts, I can just work on my own things, and normally it's very easy stuff because it's stuff that I genuinely want to do. For the most part, people don't really care when you come into work. If you do have things going on in the morning, you just let someone know, and normally they're okay with it. As long as you get your stuff done, that's what people really care about, because you can kind of just make up your own hours at work and come in whenever you need to, and you can leave as long as it's in respect to the time that you come in. Get your work done on time, come into the meetings that you need to be a part of, and if you have a pitch that day, just come in for your pitch and make sure you show up when you need to. So far, from the studios I've worked at or interned at, people are pretty flexible with working from home. I know that there are studios that are more strict with your hours and your work from home time, but for the most part, again, this is just from my experience, like, people have been pretty flexible with working from home as long as they trust you with your work ethic and everything like that. So I guess if you do want to work from home from time to time and have your own set hours, you do have to establish that sense of trust between you and your supervisor or your team to just remind everyone that you get your shit done on time. So most of the time, whenever you switch from gig to gig, that's kind of the thing that I have to do, is just like remember to prove myself to my employer that, yo, I can get my shit done on time. And once I establish that is when I can get more flexible with working from home and working my own hours, because I trust myself. I know I can get my shit done on time. People in animation are very strong advocates of you living your own life because, again, in order to create life, you need to know how to live life. And that is one thing that I just truly appreciate about being in the animation industry. People are very compassionate and they're very understanding of you just needing to live your own life. If you need to be with your family, they get it. I've also been at a studio where they're not really understanding of that, but those are also the studios that are not unionized. So for those of you who need to further convince your parents or yourself if animation is a stable enough career for you financially, I will let y'all know this, is that animation does not pay you like
fucking breadcrumbs like you're a fucking peasant.
They at least pay you like an average person working any other job, and in most cases they pay you better than the average job. But of course there are situations where, you know, this information does not apply to that, but again, for the most part, I'm just speaking for the most part and through my experience. And the reason why is because there's an animation union that exists that basically tells you that, you know, if you work this certain position, you should be at least getting paid this certain minimum to your respective field or whatever. So if you're a storyboard revisionist, you should be getting paid X amount at least. If you're a character designer, you should be getting paid X amount at least. Normally for freelance is when it gets kind of trickier, and sometimes there are times studios will try to work their way around the rules to try to take advantage of you. Like, I'm not gonna lie and say like,
no, the animation industry is like absolutely perfect.
It's not. Even some studios with some level of notability will still kind of take advantage of you, but do not let that scare you from pursuing animation as a career, because again, this kind of thing happens in any other job. Like, it's not just animation. Even if you wanted to be like a lawyer or a doctor or something else, this type of stuff happens in those industries too. So, I mean, if you're gonna go for a job that at least pays you decently and you kind of have equal chances of getting either taken advantage of or being treated like a god, you might as well go for the job that you genuinely are passionate about. Normally, it is preferred that your studio is unionized just to make sure that you have your rights as an artist. So that's something you definitely have to look into before you go job hunting or make a decision on a studio that you will be working for. For the most part, the studios that you always hear about will be unionized, but if it's a studio that you kind of are just like, oh, I didn't know that that was a studio, you kind of have to look into if they are unionized or not. So yeah, I will not get into specific numbers. For me, when I first started off as a revisionist, I was paid pretty decently. Like, I was paid above average of the regular revisionist. And then when I got promoted to become a storyboard artist is when
all that juicy ass money came flowing into a vicious wallet.
And I'm not just saying this, like, in all seriousness, I'm not saying this to fucking flaunt wealth or whatever. I am not even like wealthy or super wealthy or whatever. I'm just saying this to just prove to y'all that animation is a legitimate job that you can pursue and live an average or even above average life if you want to. Now that I am working as a storyboard artist before taxes are done, I am working a six-figure salary, but it's not a salary that's like $999,900. So what it's like working as a storyboard artist in animation is just pretty much you just go to work and you get assigned a script, which is basically, you know, the dialogue, the setting, and everything. You get supplied with the script that you will be boarding out to. And normally before you board out the script, you kind of have a read through with your team, just basically walking through what's happening. You kind of get the tone of the scene as everybody's reading their lines out loud. And that's when you go back and you will start thumbnailing to your script, because that's how you start brainstorming ideas just rawly from your brain. That's how I kind of do it. My process is that basically whenever I receive a script, I will do super ugly thumbnails just to get those thoughts out of my idea, to get the big picture of what I'm looking at. And then after that is when you kind of take your thumbnails and you put it in the drawing program that you're using at work, whether if it's Storyboard Pro or Photoshop or whatever. You will then just draw cleaner thumbnails of what you just made on your sheet of paper or just wherever you made your thumbnails. So after you make your storyboards in a more rough state is kind of when you can show your director or your supervisor, like, like, here's my first rough pass. A rough pass is a pass that you first show, it's the first one, where it's still not clean, everything is still loose, and things are still prone to change. The reason why you want to keep it loose and rough is because a lot of the ideas that you put in might not be used, so you're better off just getting the idea across, and if it doesn't work out, hey, you didn't waste like 10 years of your life just working on that scene. So after that happens and you get the approval of your director or supervisor is when you can go back, clean the stuff up, adjust the boards to whatever notes your director gave you, and then continue further with your boards until you eventually pitch it to everybody, which is a thing that you have to be aware of if you want to be a storyboard artist, is that you definitely have to get out of that whole public speaking fear. And I was always afraid of public speaking. I was that typical quiet Asian girl in the classroom that's just like, yeah, don't pick on me, don't make me talk, or I will
Fucking kill a
I feel like I enjoy public speaking now just because it's something that I really worked on a lot to overcome, so that I became proud of just being able to do that, just because it was such a hard hurdle for me that I'm just like, oh my god, I can do it now. And the fact that I can do it now makes me excited to do it. And then after you get your pitch approved or whatever and you get notes back on your pitch, you might have to make some adjustments to it, but then you don't really get a lot of time to make adjustments because that's normally the revisionist's job. So then you pass your boards on to the revisionists, and then you rinse and repeat and you get your new script and you start all over again. Working in animation is rewarding in the fact that you are basically getting paid to learn. You will be learning something new every day at work just because you have to put your thoughts into action. You have to draw things out. You have to communicate your ideas out, and you're always expressing something through your mind, and you always have to push yourself to find new ways of making these expressions through art. So that is why I feel like animation is just getting paid to go to school. I actually don't feel that much different going to work because I feel like I'm pretty much just going to school. I'm just going to the labs and just working on a group project that I'm getting paid for. And for the most part, your coworkers just end up becoming your friends. Like, they become the people that you hang out with on the weekends. If you're someone who really likes that type of working environment where you just love having a family environment at work, animation is definitely one of those fields. But again, let me just make a disclaimer, is that you're gonna have your situations where everything I'm saying right now is not gonna apply to those. You're getting paid to learn, you make friends with everyone at work, and you're always going to be growing, because even as a storyboard artist, you have the potential to grow to become an episode director. You might eventually get promoted to become a film director. You could even become a show creator, or even make your own studio at some point if you want to. But of course, this all can't happen until you step your foot into the door of animation. So yes, again, animation is gonna have its pros and its cons, but like anywhere else that you would work at, they will have its pros and cons. So just because animation is still not that much of a recognizable field, don't let the cons scare you into not pursuing it. If you really want to do this, you gotta put your mind to it and good things will happen. So yeah, if you have any other questions that you would like to have featured in a video, let me know in the comments, let me know on my Instagram, and also check out my merch store. These are some prints that I will be selling at Lightbox Expo, so yeah. But thank y'all again for watching this video. I'll see y'all in the next one, and never give up on your dreams, bitches. Peace.